Welcome in, everybody, ready to dive into some fascinating source material.
Always.
Today, we're going to take a look at the life of Alan Lafferty.
Oh, this is going to be heavy.
It is, it is. You provided me with some really interesting articles about him, and I think we're going to uncover some really interesting things about his life.
Definitely. A man who's been through an incredible tragedy, but also, it seems, has rebuilt his life in a really inspiring way.
Absolutely.
So where do we even begin?
Well, we've got this article here, Where is Alan Lafferty Now? The Tragic Story in His Life Today. And just the title itself it's gripping.
It draws you in.
It does, yeah. So let's start with the basics. Alan Lafferty, born in 1959, raised in a devout Mormon family.
LDS Church specifically.
LDS Church specifically. And that connection to the church is a theme we see throughout his life.
Right. And it plays a really a crucial role in the tragedy that really defines his story.
Yeah, absolutely. The murder of his wife, Brenda, and their baby daughter, Erica.
A truly horrific crime.
It is. And what makes it even more chilling is that the perpetrators were his own brothers.
Ron and Dan Lafferty.
Ron and Dan Lafferty, claiming they received divine orders to carry out the killings.
It's hard to fathom.
It is. I mean, how do you even begin to process something like that?
It makes you question everything,
Yeah.
Family, faith, the very nature of belief.
And that's where Jon Krakauer's book, Under the Banner of Heaven, comes in.
Right, a deep dive into this case and, more broadly, the dangers of religious extremism.
Have you read it?
I have.
What are your thoughts? How does Krakauer connect this broader context to Alan's personal tragedy?
He does a brilliant job of showing how interpretations of faith can be so vastly different. He argues that the Lafferty brothers, while claiming this, religious motivation, were really operating on the fringes of Mormonism.
Right.
Twisting scripture to fit their own agenda.
Their own violent agenda.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder then, how did Alan reconcile his own faith after something like that?
It's a question we absolutely have to explore.
We do. But before we go too deep into the tragedy itself, let's rewind a bit. Let's go back to Alan meeting Brenda at Brigham Young University.
BYU, a prominent Mormon university in Utah.
Right. For those who might not be familiar.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that period of Alan's life? Anything that hinted at the darkness to come?
There's nothing in the article that suggests that.
Okay.
From what we can gather, Alan and Brenda had a very traditional courtship.
Okay.
Fell in love, married in the Salt Lake Temple, a sacred site for Mormons.
Of course.
And then they welcomed their daughter, Erica, into the world.
Seems like they were living a very idyllic life.
Rooted in their faith,
Absolutely.
part of a strong community.
And then, July 24th, 1984, everything changes.
Their world just shattered.
Alan comes home to find Brenda and Erica brutally murdered.
I can't even imagine the horror of that moment.
It's unimaginable. And to know that your own brothers were responsible.
It's betrayal on so many levels.
It is. It cuts to the core of family, faith, everything.
It's just devastating.
The article doesn't go into a ton of detail about the immediate aftermath, but I'm curious, what kind of support system did Alan have at that time?
Right, did his faith community rally around him?
Yeah. Did he have close friends, family that helped him through those initial stages of grief and shock?
Sadly, the article's pretty sparse on those details.
Oh, okay.
It focuses more on the legal proceedings, the capture and trials of Ron and Dan.
And what were the outcomes of those trials?
Ron was sentenced to death, though he actually died in prison in 2019.
Okay.
And Dan.
Yeah.
He's still incarcerated, serving 2 life sentences.
It's almost like the legal system provided a framework in a way for processing that tragedy.
Yeah, like a step-by-step path toward some kind of justice.
Right. But what about the emotional and spiritual reckoning?
That's the part that really fascinates me.
Absolutely. How does someone like Alan, so deeply rooted in his faith, grapple with this horrific act committed by his own flesh and blood, and in the name of that very faith?
It's a question that goes beyond the basic facts.
It does.
It delves into the very essence of human resilience.
And that's what makes this story so compelling, so worth exploring. After everything that happened, it's remarkable that Alan chose to remain an active member of the LDS Church.
It is, especially when you consider his brother's distorted view of that same faith. It's a complex decision for sure.
Yeah. How do you make sense of that choice? I mean, how do you find solace in the same faith that was used to justify such violence?
Well, I think it speaks to the individual nature of faith.
Right.
While his brothers twisted religious beliefs to justify violence, Alan, he found strength and solace in the same faith community.
Yeah, it's almost like it highlights the idea that faith is not a monolith.
It's not one size fits all, definitely not. And it's about personal interpretation and finding your own path within a larger belief system.
Absolutely. Do you think that the church provided a crucial support system for Alan during that time?
It's very possible. I mean, think about it, the shared values, the rituals, the sense of community that could have offered a sense of stability,
Yeah,
a sense of belonging when his world had been so utterly turned upside down.
for sure. And it could have been a source of healing, of forgiveness even, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A way to navigate that immense emotional turmoil.
It makes me think about forgiveness in general.
Hmm.
The article doesn't explicitly mention whether Alan forgave his brothers, but
Right.
his ability to rebuild his life, to move forward, to even find love again, suggests a profound capacity for letting go of anger, of resentment.
There's no question about it. You just can't heal. You can't move forward while clinging to bitterness.
Right.
So whether he consciously forgave them or not, he made a decision. He chose not to let their actions define his own life.
Right. He reclaimed his agency,
He did.
and that's incredibly powerful.
It's a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
Absolutely. And speaking of moving forward, the article mentions that he remarried, started a new family.
He did.
I'd love to know more about that chapter of his life, about finding love again after such a profound loss.
Sadly, the source material, it doesn't really go into much detail about that. It seems like Alan's a pretty private person.
Yeah,
Maybe he felt that sharing those intimate details would somehow detract from the larger message, the more universal themes of resilience he wants to convey.
yeah, I can understand that. It kind of leads us to his current work as a lifestyle coach and motivational speaker.
Right, which is, it's a bit of a surprising turn, but at the same time, it makes sense.
It does in a way, right? For someone who's been through so much, who has come out on the other side.
It shows a real desire to transform his pain into purpose. Instead of letting that tragedy consume him, he's using his experience to empower others,
Yeah.
to offer guidance, inspiration to those facing their own challenges.
And do you think his message is focused specifically on coping with grief and trauma? Or is it a more broader approach to personal growth and resilience?
Well, while his personal experience, I'm sure, informs his work, the article suggests he's got a broader approach,
Okay.
focusing on resilience, finding meaning in the face of adversity, choosing hope,
Right.
messages that can resonate with anyone, not just those who've experienced similar tragedies.
And messages that probably resonated deeply with him as he navigated the media frenzy that inevitably followed murders.
Absolutely. The Lafferty case, it became a national sensation, a media circus.
It did, with all its shocking violence and those religious undertones.
Yeah. And for Alan to have to process the most horrific event of his life while also being thrust into the public eye.
It's unimaginable.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I mean, the media, they were relentless. It's a testament to his strength that he didn't just, crumble under that pressure.
That he maintained his privacy and his dignity.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah.
And then, to make the decision to become a public figure, to step onto a stage and share his story on his own terms.
It's a powerful act of reclaiming control.
It is.
He's not defined by that tragedy, by the media portrayal of it,
No,
but by his own resilience.
by his choice to find meaning in the face of unimaginable darkness.
Yeah. His story's a reminder to all of us that even when life deals us the cruelest blow, we still have a choice
We do.
in how we respond.
We have the power to decide who we want to be and how we want to move forward.
Yeah. And sometimes those most unexpected paths
Mm.
can lead us to our greatest purpose. And speaking of unexpected paths, I was struck by the contrast between Alan's life and the lives of his brothers.
That is a stark contrast. Yeah.
Mm.
Ron and Dan, consumed by their fanaticism, ended up imprisoned, their lives wasted on hatred and violence.
Right. And Alan chose a path of healing, of forgiveness, of service to others.
It's a powerful reminder that even when faced with unimaginable circumstances, we still have the power to choose who we want to be.
It's a powerful message.
And that brings us back to Alan's work as a lifestyle coach, as a motivational speaker. What kind of advice does he offer?
Yeah, what wisdom has he gleaned from navigating such profound loss and ultimately finding peace and purpose?
I'm really eager to explore that. Let's dive into those specific messages he shares with the world in the final part of our deep dive. We've been talking about Alan Lafferty's incredible journey, the unimaginable loss he faced, his unwavering faith, and his choice to embrace healing and forgiveness. And now we get to explore his work as a lifestyle coach and motivational speaker. What are some of the messages he shares with the world?
Well, the article doesn't give us word-for-word transcripts or anything, but it does highlight some of his core themes.
Okay, yeah, what are some of those?
One that really stuck out to me was this idea of post-traumatic growth.
He doesn't shy away from the darkness he's experienced,
Yeah.
but he focuses on how that darkness can be a catalyst for real transformation.
That's so powerful.
It is.
It's not about, pretending the trauma didn't happen or trying to erase it.
No.
It's about acknowledging the pain and finding ways to grow, to evolve because of it.
Exactly. He seems to suggest that resilience is about more than just bouncing back.
Right.
It's about bouncing forward.
I like that.
Using those tough experiences, all those challenges, to develop a deeper understanding of yourself, your values, and your purpose in life.
And I imagine he talks a lot about finding meaning in suffering. I mean, he's someone who stared into the abyss and then chose to create a life of purpose, a life of service to others.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It seems like he really believes that even when life feels completely meaningless, we still have the power to create meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's about shifting our perspective, focusing on the good, and choosing to make a positive impact on the world.
In his coaching and his motivational speaking, do you think he draws any parallels between his personal journey and the challenges that the people he works with are facing?
Oh, I'm sure his personal experience informs everything he does. It's what gives him that credibility, that authenticity.
Right, of course.
But from what I gathered from the article, he doesn't dwell on the details of his tragedy. He uses it more as a jumping-off point
Okay.
to explore these bigger themes of resilience, hope, the strength of the human spirit.
It makes you think about the impact of his choices compared to the choices his brothers made.
Absolutely.
His brothers chose violence, they chose destruction, they left a trail of pain and suffering. But Alan chose healing. He chose growth.
And through his work, he's inspiring others to do the same.
Yeah. It's really a beautiful illustration of how our choices have a ripple effect.
They do. They impact not just our own lives, but the lives of everyone around us.
And it shows that you can find redemption, even in the darkest circumstances.
Redemption is always possible.
It's truly inspiring. Alan's story is a powerful reminder that even in the face of terrible loss, we still have the power to choose love. We can choose hope. We can choose growth.
It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
It really is. And it shows the incredible capacity we have to find meaning and purpose even when surrounded by darkness.
I think the biggest takeaway for our listeners today is that we may not always be able to control what happens to us, but we always have control over how we respond.
And Alan Lafferty's life is a perfect example of that.
It truly is.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary life of Alan Lafferty. We hope you found it as thought-provoking and as inspiring as we did.